Mr. Moore is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for sitting through this and answering questions. Sometimes the 5 minutes goes by and you don't get to answer any questions. It's the way this place works. But welcome to the U.S. House of Representatives, a lovely place of constant contradiction. Just today we've seen, not related to this, but we saw an argument about we cannot default. So one side of the aisle says we can't default, and the other side of the aisle says we absolutely cannot default. So let's do a bill that ensures that we pay our bonded indebtedness to our creditors. And then the other side will say, well, you just want to pay our creditors only, or certain creditors more. Like it's just this constant back and forth. And I actually relate that as an example to what we're dealing with here with respect to trying to embrace an all-the-above approach energy process. Right? I have never been against, the concept of building an all-the-above approach, right? And a lot of the things in the Inflation Reduction Act, we're trying to get to that. But the lead person on this, and President Biden, when he stands in front of the entire country and says, well, yeah, we'll need oil and gas for 10 more years. Like I've never seen any type of predictions that can say that we can meet our energy demands with just 10 more years of oil and gas. And I just met with a renewable gas organization that are digging into this issue and talking about all the amazing benefits that we get from natural gas. And so, again, H.R. 1 becomes this debate. Personally, I hope that in this split government situation, we're able to find an opportunity from permitting reform. I believe there are several Democrats, many Democrats, that would be open to the concept of permitting reform because it is stymieing anything that they're doing on renewable technology. We can't even build transmission lines because of NEPA and the archaic version of how we go about that regulation. And so with that, Mr. Horn, I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on the ability to meet these demands. If there is such a motivation to produce solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, EVs, transformers, do we have the regulatory environment to produce the material needed for that domestically?
Congressman, the regulatory environment is not easy to work with, to state the obvious. What I would say is we have the resource and technological capability to not only meet our own demand, but to export to the remainder of the globe if we were to unleash those resources. What I do believe is that there can be a truly bipartisan agreement on common sense regulatory reform that really looks to prioritize what is best not only for industry, for jobs, for possibly exploitable populations, but for the environment as well. Because I think when you actually contrast, to the earlier example, a copper mine in Minnesota with slave child labor in Congo that is being propped up artificially by our largest adversary, there's really no question as to which of those is preferential for all of our goals. So I would say there needs to be a hard look at regulatory reform in terms of opening up U.S. resources. And if we do that, we can once again lead the world in this space like we did prior to the 1990s.
Mr. Stein, it's easy to see why using American minerals helps American companies. It's easy to see why it could help produce some of this technology that so many people want to embrace. What about the consumers? How does it? Can you describe how it will help consumers to embrace American-made or American-produced minerals more?
Well, I think ultimately consumers are American citizens who get those jobs and those communities, the funds that go into those communities, that helps consumers to purchase those products. So, I mean, and ultimately, the sorts of efficiencies that we might look for to ultimately lower prices for some of these things like EVs that are still very expensive, that sort of innovation might happen in the United States in a capitalist, economy, but if it was allowed for the market itself to actually take that action. This is part of the problem when you have government subsidies creating things. They prop up existing technologies, existing ways of doing things because companies chase the money instead of innovating and looking for the next big thing, something that might actually lower costs.
Thank you. And just quickly make a comment to Mr. Turner, your comment earlier about the 9,000 leases. It's something I've dug into. I've actually put legislation that would require a specific timeline and process that you need to follow for things that are existing. So the Biden administration says, okay, we're going to stop doing it entirely, federal lands, secretarial order, all that stuff. And then, oh, but we have all these leases available. And then the slow playing happens. And that is the most fundamentally difficult thing for our industry to actually navigate. And I think it's one of the most disingenuous things. So I appreciate you highlighting it. And if the leases are available, well, then let's embrace it. Let's continue to do it. But then it's more of the slow playing and the constant, all the roadblocks that get put in the way. And we're left with an impossible environment to navigate. So thank you.